days. We're back again for another episode of Diamond Effect. I'm March Bishop. We got Mike Ball and Aaron Olinger. What up, everybody? Glad you was able to tune in with us today. We got another rather interesting story we're going to put out. Hopefully, we get a lot of information out and put some clarity to some of this. I'm pretty sure we ain't gonna know the answers to all of it. We're gonna run through it and see what we come up with. In the meantime, before we get started, everybody hit that like button. That way they get this show out on a proper algorithm, so as many people as possible can be able to watch. Um, we're gonna say this ahead of time because it's storming here in the south, and so there may be a couple little technical difficulties. I mean, hopefully we can make it through without them, but just in case, you already know what's going on. Um, so we're gonna shoot it, play it at the hip, and see what it do. Um, Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and turning on your water faucet and discovering that the people responsible for your city water system can no longer control their own equipment. None of the pumps are responding. The computer passcodes are not working. Water pressure is dropping. The operators cannot even see what's going on inside the system. And sometimes, possibly thousands of miles away, an unknown person or persons is controlling the machinery that supplies water to your community. That's not a movie plot. This is part of an ongoing national cybersecurity investigation. So, since July 27th, water and wastewater facilities in at least 7 states, now we know that it's up to 12 states now, is being investigated by the FBI. Federal authorities have said that some of these attacks uh, degraded water operations. Hackers changed passcodes, internet addresses, took away operators' ability to monitor the equipment, and in some cases, interfered with the physical operation of the water facilities itself. Now, in Minnesota alone, more than 30 systems was targeted. 9 systems reported in Michigan, and other systems experienced pressure loss, flooding, boil water notices have been put out for periods of time. And also, they had to run a lot of these stations by manual operation. But the federal government has not publicly identified these affected states for some reason, not all of them. Um, and it's not identified as to what particular cities they were as well. Now you have Iranian affiliated hackers under suspicion because federal agencies previously warned that they were targeting same types of industrial controllers used in American water facilities. But that suspicion, like I said, that's just what it is right now. It's just suspicion. It's not actual proof. So tonight, we're not investigating one cyber attack in Minnesota. We're investigating a coordinated threat against water infrastructure across the United States. And what we're asking is someone merely testing America's defenses, or are they preparing for something much more than what we got going on right now? Um, so we're going to talk about first what happened in Minnesota and also in Michigan. Um, so, as I said before, more than 30 community water systems were targeted during a coordinated activity back July 26th and the 27th. Uh, Damn, on my birthday. Um, the most confirmed incidents involved technology used to remotely monitor and control um, the overall water equipment itself. The different, you know how they have it broke off between the wastewater and your fresh water. Those pumps and those auxiliary tanks and all that stuff was affected. Um, but being classified as um, affected did not mean that every community lost water. Every community didn't lose water. It meant that those investigators confirmed that there was a lot of malicious activity going on in that particular facility technology. So what it did was it cut off certain parts of the facility to where it wasn't able to push out water. Some areas were still able to get water, but a whole lot of them wasn't. And they basically just shut them down for the most part. So over in Brown, Minnesota, um, that's a community probably about 15, anywhere between 15 and 1,700 people. Um, their water system went offline, and the residents had to just basically, if you had reserves somewhere, use them because they didn't have anything. Um, and the officials there had determined that the attackers had shut down the operation controls connected to the city well and also to the water treatment plant. So they hit both spots. And for several days, that community depended solely on water that they already had. If somebody had water stored, um, taking water out of their hot water heaters and stuff like that to be able to use, but they did not have any water whatsoever. Um, Unless they were running, of course, everybody gonna run to the store and buy all the water that you can buy. But I mean, that's only a small supply that you're gonna be able to get. And after then, they was kind of fending for themselves for a couple of days. Now over in Plymouth, Minnesota, um, that was a much larger city, and it did the same thing there. Shut down, shut their whole infrastructure down. They they didn't have nothing. I mean, like it completely, it shut it down to the point that how still when you have water, you still have water that's in the pipes, so you still able to pull. I mean, what extra water there
What
was.
little, right?
Right. It dropped the pressure down so low that you couldn't even pull that.
Damn.
So that water just sat in the pipes. It couldn't do anything. It wasn't even enough pressure to push it even through the pipes. It completely shut it down. Um, Now Michigan subsequently reported related activity involving non-water systems, and their state officials said that the activity was consistent with the federal agency's um, description of an actual cybersecurity incident. Now, Michigan reported that all 9 facilities continued to operate, but they had to do it manually. And um, that was for all 9 facilities. So basically, anything that was used as a remote, or anything that was used that you had to use the actual computers to check out the actual rates, and all of that was shut down. They couldn't do nothing. The only thing that they could do in order to keep those running was to manually make them work. So we've talked about um, hackers and cybersecurity. We've talked about that a lot in the past months, and just dealing with this water. You had Minnesota and Michigan. You also had the same thing that happened in parts of Georgia, South Dakota, uh, California, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and New Jersey. And there's still a couple more that they haven't released yet. But they say that it is 12 in total
Mhm.
that's in that this has happened to. Now, like I said before, we've talked about this numerous times, and we've talked about the main culprits. It's usually Iran, Russia, and China. It's usually those three that's on a daily basis trying to hack into these systems, whether it's water treatment, also power grid, um, 911
Don't
systems. The list goes on.
don't leave out North
There's some-
Korea. North Korea doing it too.
Yeah, yeah. But you hear, yeah, that is true. That is true. But you hear about them 3 main culprits the most out of out of all this, and then being the fact that we do have this ongoing thing with Iran. Of course, it's the first. You know, what I mean, it's the first one that they're going after and say, yeah, it's probably Iran that did it. Mind you, it could have not been them. It could have been China. It could have been Russia. It could have been North Korea, like you just said, Mike. Um, but it's just, but this is something that everybody needs to pay attention to, because being the fact that it just happened, like I said, it started out with 7 states, went from 7 to 12. Next time it could be a whole lot more. It could be 15. It could be 20. It can be 25 states. You know what I mean? You don't know. Um, this whole this whole cyber thing, this cybersecurity thing, and these hackers. This is all getting like a little too close for comfort, especially when you get into these water treatment plants, being able to shut off water, being able to shut off power, stuff like that. I mean, that's a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? Then you get into, you know what I mean, hospitals. You shutting off power. You shutting off power to these hospitals. Some hospitals have generators, some don't, which would actually cause a huge problem. And we've seen that a lot when they had like tornadoes, hurricanes, stuff like that. That it's only a certain amount of time that those generators can continue to run before they go out. You know, and on top of that, you got the fuel shortages that we got going on now. It's it's like a powder keg. It's a lot of different stuff that's going on at the same time, and it's hard to see exactly what the next move is going to be. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much stuff going on. So, what do you think about this, Mike?
Well, this is, you were tying in actually everything that I'm going to be kind of discussing about infrastructure, right? So instead, we're talking about something that could impact every American without a single shot ever being fired, right? America's critical infrastructure, water, power, fuel, hospitals, transportation, communications. These are the systems that we depend on every single day, yet most of us rarely think about them until they stop working. And so let me ask you a question. If someone wanted to hurt the United States without invading it, where would they strike first? Would they attack a military base? Or would they target the systems that millions of Americans rely on every day? That's exactly what we're discussing right now. When people
Mm-hmm.
hear the phrase, quote, critical infrastructure, it sounds like like government jargon, but it's actually pretty simple. Critical infrastructure is everything that keeps society functioning. When you flip on a light switch, when you pump gas, when you turn on your faucet, when an ambulance responds to an emergency, when a hospital performs surgery, those systems all depend on infrastructure that is increasingly connected through technology. And because they're connected, they can also become targets. Over the last several weeks, federal agencies have warned about increased cyber activity directed at parts of America's critical infrastructure, particularly water and wastewater systems. Multiple water utilities have reported cyber incidents, and federal agencies have issued joint advisories urging operators to strengthen their cybersecurity. It is important to understand something, though. There is no evidence that America's drinking water has been contaminated through these recent incidences. The concern isn't poisoned water. The concern is disruption. If attackers can interfere with the systems that operate pumps, valves, or treatment facilities, they don't necessarily have to destroy anything to create major problems. Sometimes simple or simply interrupting operations is enough. We've also seen reports involving fuel systems, transportation networks, and operational technology used throughout critical infrastructure. Now, not every cyber incident has been publicly attributed to the same group or even the same country. Investigations are ongoing, and it's important not to assume every outrage or technical problem is the result of a hostile cyber attack, which we do get hit on every day. I mean, it's a multiple time thing a day. That's exactly why we separate confirmed facts from speculation. Now, one of the reasons Iran continues to come up in these conversations is because United States agencies have repeatedly warned about Iranian affiliated cyber actors targeting operational technology used in critical infrastructure. That doesn't mean every incident is automatically connected. It means federal agencies view the threat seriously enough to issue public warnings and guidance. So again, AB was talking about like a scenario, right? So let's walk this scenario. The electrical grid experiences a disruption. Then gas stations suddenly can't pump fuel. Then traffic lights stop functioning. Hospitals switch to emergency generators. Supply deliveries are delayed. Communications become less reliable. Notice something? No single event has to be catastrophic, but because all these systems depend on one another, disruptions can quickly spread. That's what people mean when they talk about the domino effect, which we covered a few episodes ago. One failure leads to another and another and another. Modern warfare isn't just fought with bombs and missiles anymore. It's also fought with keyboards, with malicious software, with attempts to exploit vulnerabilities inside networks and operational real world systems. In many ways, cyber warfare has become a whole other battlefield. Now, does that mean Americans should panic? Absolutely not. Most infrastructure operators have backup systems, manual procedures, cybersecurity teams, and federal support. But it does mean this is an area that deserves attention, because as our infrastructure becomes more connected, it also becomes more dependent on digital security. So here's a bigger question I wanted to ask everyone tonight to think about. If cyber warfare continues to evolve, which we know that's what technology is doing, should defending America's digital infrastructure become just as important as defending our physical borders? Because in today's world, a keyboard on the other side of the planet may be capable of causing real world consequences here at home. Now, this is what we talk about right here on the Diamond Effect. Not fear, not sensationalizing a situation, not political narratives, just understanding the bigger picture, right? Because wars today aren't fought with only tanks and aircraft. Sometimes they're fought through networks, infrastructure, and technology that most people never notice until the day it stops working. That's it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, just in the past few months, like in May, for instance, they gained access to equipment that monitor the underground fuel storage tanks in gas stations in multiple states. You didn't hear anybody talk about that.
Right.
You didn't hear not one news network bring that up. That's what happened. So with that particular situation, those attackers could manipulate fuel readings, although they apparently could not directly change the amount of fuel inside the tanks, but they could go into it and actually shut those tanks down to where they were non-functional. So you pull up at the tank, pull up at the pump to get you some gas, everything shut down. Can't use it. Back in March, a Iran linked group claimed responsibility for attacking what is the name of that group? Stryker, and that's a major American medical device manufacturer. And that disruption, they just basically went through, just like they have been doing. They hack into the system, hold it hostage, basically, and you say, okay, you give me so many millions in Bitcoin or whatever, we're gonna free the information, which that company ended up doing. They've also had transportation systems that was targeted over in Los Angeles County with their Metropolitan Transportation Authority. That was 2 months ago. And so the list goes on. You know what I mean? Like we talked about before how these hackers even got into Microsoft and got all the way down to the source code to where they were able to hold it hostage. And one of the conversations that we had at that point was, if you were able to get that far into that coding to where you got down to the source code to hold it hostage, what was stopping you from actually putting something in there to where you could go back again and do the same thing? What's actually stopping that? You know what I mean? And a lot of these companies now are resorting over to everything being digital paperwork. And we're coming to the age now where they're talking about digital facial recognition, CBDCs, and all this different stuff, putting your driver's license on computers, putting your medical history on these different apps and all this other stuff.
It's like a social score.
Right. It's very, very easy for these hackers to jump in and basically take everything. You know what I mean? But it seems like you would think, though, being the fact that this is the way technology is actually going, that you would put some kind of, or come up with some kind of strongholds that would prevent that from happening. You know what I mean? So if you have that great of a risk of people's identities, bank account numbers, driver's license numbers, social security numbers, all this stuff that could easily be be hacked and taken and used, that number one, you wouldn't want to keep putting these implements in place to be able to put more information in them, and two, come up with some other kind of technology to where it can't be broken into. You know what I mean? But anything dealing with technology, if you make a way for it to work, then you make a way for it not to work, how to get into it. You know what I mean? And these people get a lot of these people just sit on a damn computer in their basement and shit and hack into shit all day. You know what I mean? And it's surprising how much stuff that they're able to actually get. You know what I mean? Like I put like a VPN on all my stuff to try to block everything out. You know what I mean? Send my IP address all over the place. Like they don't know where the hell I'm at. But one thing it has on there is a thing where it scans to see if there was any kind of data breaches that you may be involved in. And before I started using this VPN, I had like 9 different data breaches that it pulled up that I was involved in, that my
Wow.
information was given out. You know what I mean? So if mine was 9, is people that probably got way more than that. You know what I mean? It seemed like every time you turn around, there was a different data breach here, data breach there. Oh, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? We got it under control, but your information was still taken out there. I mean, somebody still has access to that information. You know what I
On a
mean?
side note, real quick, I just wanted to point out regarding that whole VPN thing. I think that might have been the reason why when you created your YouTube account that they thought you were from Russia. I bet you that day it pinned you to Russia or something like that in your VPN, and then you created the account, and it's like, oh yeah, you're in Russia right now. Anyways,
Yeah, that's
side note.
possible. That's possible. That's possible because I do have it set up to where like every 5 minutes it sends
It changing
sends it to a
somewhere
different
else.
place. Right.
Yep.
It's very very possible. Um, Now on July 22nd, there was a joint warning from the FBI, CISA, and NSA, Department of Energy, and U.S. Cyber Command that says that Iranian hackers had been exploiting internet connections, um, and had also um, was getting involved with the energy providers and also trying to tap into government services as well. And some unnamed victims, which they haven't disclosed, experienced operation disruptions and financial losses. In one case, hackers reportedly changed programming inside the industrial controller to disable critical shutdown and alarm functions, potentially allowing equipment to enter unsafe conditions. And um, some of this equipment that they were not able to monitor actually like got to a certain point heat wise and blew. Um, but they still haven't said exactly whether they got to the bottom of that or not. But that was something that just happened here on the 22nd of July. Um, Also on the 22nd, there was a transmission line that went down in Northern Virginia, causing numerous data centers to disconnect from the grid and switch to backup power. More than 3 gigawatts of demand suddenly disappeared. About 3% of the electricity demand on the PJM system at that particular moment. And the results caused disturbances detected all the way over to DC, Chicago. Some customers reported flickering lights, appliances making unusual noises. Um, the system took probably 15, 20 minutes to actually stabilize. Um, but it was actually compromised. Now, for that particular one, they try to blame it on the data center and said, well, it was just a transmission line outage. It was like an automated response to the data center or whatever. But think about that: 3 gigawatts of power, just like that, go. You know what I mean? Now, even if you put that on the data center, that's a lot of power going into those data centers. When you think about 3 gigawatts of power, you know what I mean?
Huge amount.
And and it was enough power to where you had shortages. You had power shortages in DC all the way over to Chicago from something that happened in Virginia. You know what I mean? So for to a lot of people who don't realize these these data centers and how much power these data centers use, it's unreal. You know what I mean? You take like Texas, for instance, because Texas holds their own power structure there. They don't they don't have to feed from nobody else. They have their own. But Texas has a huge population, and you know, every winter they have outages. Every summer they have outages. But they also leading the U.S. right now in data centers. So you think about that. Those data centers use a huge amount of power, which you already, even though you basically like your own co-op, you generating your own power. But you have all these data centers here now too that's also pulling that power. Eventually, you're gonna have a blackout. It's gonna happen because the your actual infrastructure that you're using, a lot of this on this actual power grid, a lot of the infrastructure is still dated back to the 70s and 80s.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? This whole power grid has not been formally like fixed to make it more, 2000s. It's
Yeah, they
still
add to it. The
right.
bones though, the bones were from 60s, 70s, and then into the 80s, and then they just add things to it. But the bones are still the original.
Exactly. So you add into the extra, but then you also got to think, where are you getting these big semiconductors from? Where are you getting the transformers from? You, where are you getting all of your major computer components for the power grid? Where are you getting them from? China. That's where you're getting them from. So, do you not think that if you built it, then you know how to get into it, right? I
Hmm.
mean, that's kind of pretty common sense, right? If I
Of
make
course.
something, then I know how to get into it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Just like anything, just like any app you make. If I make it to where it's secure, to where you can get on it and be secure, trust me, there's somebody who knows how to get into it. You know what I mean? I can't make it unless I can make a fail safe to get into it when I need to get into it. You see what I mean? So you kind of setting yourself up on that end as well. You know what I mean? So not only are you losing a lot of power with these data centers, and trust me, once you start and you actually realize how many of these data centers are actually being built right now in these various states, you'd be amazed at how many of them that's actually that went through and they've been proposed. I mean, these are hundreds of
Yeah.
data centers that's being brought up. So not only are you using power,
The
but you
water.
also using water.
Yeah.
Your two biggest things is going to a data center. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And these data centers are using millions of gallons of water, fresh water, per day. Per day. I just seen a thing the other day for yesterday where they would show the Colorado River, and some of them areas were completely dried up. Like the fish that was they were just laying over on the rocks because
Hmm.
it had completely dried up. You have these hydroelectric dams that's over in Nevada and Utah that's talking about that they may have to close by December because of the water being so low that they're not going to be able to produce electricity at that point. Which that whole area there, that whole grid area there that they supply power to would no longer be able to have power there for a data center. You know what I mean? Um, El Paso, several areas over in Texas, rivers dried up, lakes are drying up. You know what I mean? Due to these data centers. You know what I mean? And you you hear a lot of times you hear these politicians talk about these data centers and how wonderful these data centers are going to be, and it's bringing jobs into the area, putting these data centers.
Very temporary jobs, by the way.
Right, right. You having a job building the building, but after then, that's it. You know what I mean? But when your electric bill shoots up to the ceiling because you're paying more because the energy company has to produce more power because it's going to the data center. You think they're paying that? No, you're paying that. Plus, they sucking down all your fresh water. You know what I mean? To for eventually, if you sucking up millions of gallons of water a day, eventually you run out.
Of course.
Fresh water, fresh water is going to be very scarce here soon if we keep letting these data centers keep rolling like they're doing. I mean, somebody has to do something. You know what I mean? Now, they just, I mean, they can sit here and talk about this technology age and the glorious uh, things that these data centers can do. And you know what I mean, you think about it. Every time you go on Chat GPT and have them to print one of them stupid ass pictures of yourself, think about it. Every time you actually do that picture, it used 5 gallons of water to give you that
I was
picture.
about to say, yeah, you just guzzled up like 5 gallons of water, no problem.
Right, right. So you just gave away 5 gallons of water for it to do that. So um, so think about that. You know what I mean? Not to mention some of these states that use well water and stuff like that are finding a lot of contamination in the water, like over West Virginia, uh, the northern part of Virginia, facing water shortages because a lot of those areas there use well water that's been contaminated. Um, this is going to be water is going to end up being like the new gold in a couple years,
Hmm.
simply because of the way they're overdoing these data centers and using all this fresh water. You know, you would think that if they wanted to put these massive data centers like that, they would find another way to cool them down. I heard that there's one that's in Texas that they're getting ready to build that's actually 5 miles long. Can you imagine how much water and electricity is being used in that place? You know what I mean? Especially on an infrastructure that's already weak because you have shortages every winter and every summer. So expect blackouts. Expect it. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen all the way around this country because the more they keep building and the more they keep sucking this power, especially when you're using an old infrastructure that was never upgraded fully, you're going to have these problems. You know what I mean? And it's not going to take too much longer before you have Iran, China, Russia, North Korea to be able to tap into it. You know what I mean? You're giving way too many options to be able to do it. You know what I mean? And we're at a point right now that you really can't afford to lose too much more than what's going on right now. So, but you've been quiet, Aaron.
Yeah.
What you got,
I,
bro?
I was waiting on my chance to jump in.
My
Uh,
bad, brother. We was
okay.
we just got
I
to
know
jumping on
that.
that man and it got the flowing. But go
I
ahead.
know. And it was good too. I know that the CSA and the FBI is saying that there's no positive proof that it was Iran. I say it was Iran or their proxies. I mean, for those who don't know, I'm retired, so I can stay up all night and watch overseas news services. And I saw where they were reporting that it was Iran. If it wasn't Iran, it was their proxies doing it, which you might as well say is Iran because they take their orders from Iran. In fact, Iran made a threat. First, we started being attacked, like you said, Bishop, on Wednesday. From Wednesday to Friday, different states were being hit. Then Friday night, when I was up all night, Iran made an announcement and they made a threat to Trump as well. And basically, they said that if we went through with whatever major attack we were getting ready to do this weekend with the Israelis, that they were going to shut down our water and shut down our power grid. Now, I'll show you two of the photos that I picked up on those reports. Mike, give me picture number 2, please.
Looking for it. Hold on. Number 2.
Hey.
Here it is.
Yeah. Now, what you see there is different motels in Dubai and different places that Trump owns. When they made their announcement, they said that they're going to start targeting those and bring those properties down that he owns personally. It was going to destroy them. And then, Mike, give me picture number 1, please.
All right. Here it is.
Upon Trump hearing what he heard, he called off the attack this weekend. And he also asked the Israelis to halt. attacking their energy infrastructure, which is their power stations and stuff. And the Israelis were pissed. I mean, I saw their news reports and they were highly upset that they had to stop. And, for that reason, I say it's definitely because first we're being attacked. Then Iran makes the announcement that that was a shot across the bow, that things will get much worse if we go through with this attack. They threatened his motels as well. And Trump had to ask the Israelis to stand down, and they stood down our forces. So if they didn't believe that was a credible threat, they never would have done that. And to me, Mike, if you don't mind, give me picture number 4, please.
Gotcha.
What I want to explain here is this for what's going to happen in the first 24 hours if the power grid goes down. I'm only doing it because Iran definitely threatened our power grid as well as our water. Okay, you can expect your cell towers. They're only going to last 48 hours after they're attacked with the battery backups. Your calls are basically, your phones are going to fail before your lights do. And then, but you can still get texts through in the event that you can't get voice phone calls through. Then at the stores, the card readers, if you're going to need to use your credit cards to run out the last minute and buy supplies, those are going to die first. The registers will fail long before the stores run out of food. It's going to be cash only within the first hour. So if you don't have cash in your hand, your cards, your checks are going to be worthless. And I advise you to have small bills, 10s, 5s, and 1s, because nobody's going to make change. So you better make sure that you have these things in advance in case this happens. Now at the gas stations, the pumps need power to pump. I mean, that's basic rule. Keep your tanks on full. People are going to be lined up for hours. You don't want to be stuck in those lines, and those are choke points. There's going to be violence is going to ensue. People are going to try to butt in line and start shooting and crap. You don't want to get caught in those lines, so you want to live by the half tank rule. If you got a half a tank of gas, you can go 172 miles in any given direction. But as soon as your tank hits half, go to the gas station and fill it back up. Don't let it go below half. Now, as far as the water pressure goes, with these towers and things, it's on a timer when we get into a disaster crisis. In my area, and I checked into it, we have 18 water towers in around Dayton and the surrounding area. That gives us enough water for 2 to 3 days max. And I checked into it because that's part of our civil defense plan. You want to fill your bathtubs up first, and then you can question the viability of the water later. But your bathtub is going to hold probably about 60, 65 gallon. Then you've got a water heater. You go to your circuit breaker box and you click that breaker off and you let that water cool. You can put a garden hose to it and you can drain those tanks. You'll probably have, depending upon the size of your water heater, anywhere from 40 to 80 extra gallons of water right there on hand in an emergency in the event you haven't stockpiled any. Your ATMs, they're going to be empty before dark. People are going to be lined up there. The violence will ensue because some people will try to take your money from you. Everybody's got the same idea to rush them ATMs. So cash at home is the only way around avoiding getting caught in that type of dangerous situation. And then your roads are going to turn dangerous because the turn signals, the traffic lights are not going to work. So how are you going to get through? Nobody's going to agree to whose turn it is. I saw that when Dayton had the tornado crisis. When I thought it was my turn, if I'd pulled out there in the street, I would have been nailed by people. You want to stay home not only the first night, but I can tell you, as soon as people realize the power's not coming back on, by the third or fourth night, violence will ensue. So stay at home where you're safe. The information blackout, there's going to be no news. There's not going to be no GPS. There's not going to be no searches you're going to be able to do. And people are going to be spreading rumors. You don't want to listen. You don't want to trust that. They claim an online AI will still give answers, but I don't see how that's possible if the person doesn't have power. And then help is going to be triage. Hospitals and water plants will come first. They got first priority, and also military bases in the event that our grid goes down. Uh, Neighborhoods are going to have to wait days, if not hours. Your plan is the only plan. And what people need to realize is the grid can be attacked from anywhere on earth, even within inside our own country. Uh, your readiness cannot be attacked. So if you see this coming, if you're prepared, you should be okay to make it through this situation. But this war is going to escalate even further. For those that don't know, UAE this weekend, I was up all night on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. UAE froze the Iranian money. We've already froze some of their money. Now the UAE has froze money on them. And I'm sure Iran's going to be pissed about that because they didn't like the idea that we took their money. Now UAE's taking their money. People need to get out in front of this, see it coming, prepare, and then when it happens, you're going to thrive through this situation. And you want to have enough inventory on hand that you can last a certain number of days, or if not 4 to 6 weeks. 10 to 15 cases of water guarantees you enough drinking water for a family of 5 for 6 weeks. So, and at the end of 6 weeks, you can look at your situation and you can decide, is it worth sheltering in place, staying in the house you're in, or should you go to a relative's house? There is safety in numbers because things will get violent over here within 4 days. And you have to wonder, can you make it there safely, or can relatives make it to you safely if they wait that long? So this is important to get out in front of. Back when we first talked about this about a year and a half ago, people thought we were conspiracy theorists. Now we're living in the reality of it. So
Mm-hmm.
get out in front of this and make sure that you don't suffer. And I'll stop there for right now.
Yeah, you are right about that, Aaron. When we was talking, I remember we spoke about this several times. I don't know what happened to him. He popped up.
Yeah, he couldn't hear me or hear
Did-
you. Yeah.
Oh, well, we spoke about this several times as to um, what's going to happen, what could happen, what was the possibilities for it happening. And back then, it was that's when they were like first starting to do this, you know, and we were talking about exactly what could actually happen if this took place.
No kidding.
And now, like I said, a lot of the stuff that we ended up talking about has now come into fruition. So it seems like a lot of these shows that we're doing right now are kind of repeat of something that we had previously said year and a half, 2 years ago, as to what was coming. Aaron, I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
So why do you think they keep all this stuff a secret? Like you said, like the stuff that I just named off about what happened in LA. We're talking about that the hackers for the medical and the clinical infrastructure stuff like that. Why do you think that they keep that such a secret? Wouldn't you think that would be something that they would want to tell people so that way you could actually take it and be prepared if something happened?
Well, like right now, um, because it's felt that we're going to fight Japan next year. I mean, not Japan, but China. And Russia is going to side with China because they have a mutual defense treaty signed with each other. The nation itself is doing what they call nuclear prepping. The government needs time to prep. So they're going to downplay a situation until they have their stuff. And then once they get everything they need, then they'll probably admit some things to the public. But we'll probably be already going through some stuff by that point. But like in my area right now, I posted on my Facebook page where Wright-Patterson Air Force Base announced an upcoming combat readiness inspection exercise that's going to go from August the 10th through the 14th. And they want to make sure that they're threat ready, that they can handle crisis in different areas and put down threats. So when they said put down threats, I'm like, Oh, you're expecting uh, violence in our streets. You're expecting terrorist activity in the streets if you got to put down local threats. So they're getting their stuff together. And anytime you see the government and the military prepping, I hope people have common enough sense to realize you better be doing the same thing. I'll stop there.
Well, we already talked about before that the prices that you're seeing right now are going to change here real soon,
Mhm.
especially once these crop yields come through, and also if that strait is not reopened the way it's supposed to be,
True.
because now you're not just dealing with the strait, you're
Right.
dealing with two different fronts that could be shut down,
Mm-hmm.
which would also raise the prices for all of that. Um, a lot of this stuff you're not going to be able to get, um, which is going to cause the prices to raise even more. But then too, like Aaron, you was talking about earlier before we um, started on the show. One of our biggest debt holders to this debt is Japan.
For U.S.
And
debt.
right, right to U.S. debt is Japan. And the other day, they had a major crash and lost, what was it? What was it? Was it 30 trillion? 30 trillion yen?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
an insane amount.
yeah, that's like equivalent to like 200 billion US dollars. But when you hear 30 trillion anything, that's a lot. You know,
Yeah.
uh, to the point that they had to start selling off U.S. Treasury bonds.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of people really don't understand exactly what that means and what happens when Japan, who's number one, followed by China, and number two, and they've been. Well, I mean, I know China for sure has been drastically selling off their bonds. They've been drastically selling off U.S. debt for well over a year and a half now, because they were number one at one point. Now you have Japan that's taken a loss, and before they take a financial loss to the point that they drop into a depression, of course they got to get rid of this stuff too. Um, I know you had some stuff dealing with that, so I'm gonna let you kind of explain to everybody exactly what's going on with that.
Yeah. People need to understand one thing. Japan was the largest creditor to nations in the world, especially the Western nations. Um, on Friday, the bank declared an Article 589 and started dumping U.S. treasuries. They dumped over $1 trillion in treasuries. Mike, if you don't mind, put that pick 3 back up, please.
Yeah, I got you. I knew you were going to go back to it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, what you can see is from the 30th till just recently, Japan's money has been in a free fall. The Federal Reserve on Friday had to step in and spend $53 billion to match China's 73.6 billion to try to save Japan's money. It wasn't China's money; it was Japan's 73.6 billion. So we had to buy their debt and buy the yen basically.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, he clicked off. He clicked off, didn't he?
Oh, no, I think he got a phone call. That's what happened. Look. Yeah. So real quick, Mr. Al Patterson, thank you very much for the gifted membership, by the way. Very much appreciate you for helping out over here, man.
Yeah, I don't think people really realize the ramifications of what could happen if
Yes.
if they sell.
Oh, it'd be huge.
Actually, right.
Okay.
If China, Japan, and all of them decide to sell at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
that what all could actually come about with that? You know what I mean?
Well,
That
look
could
what
cause
happened
huge
that-
problems on
what-
this end.
When our nation went through that ourselves during the Great Depression. I mean, look at that. alone. That's just on a national scale kind of thing. Imagine now what it would be on an international front.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started to say, we spent 53 billion on Friday to try to save their money, and we're going to have to spend even more because right now inflation in Japan is being driven by the oil prices, and Japan is literally running out of oil. And the next move for the yen, it means everything's going to be higher. Now, why is that important to the United States? For 30 years, Japan interest rates on the money they was lending was at zero rate. So you could go to Japan, you could borrow millions of dollars, enter it into US markets, into stock markets and things, and make clean profit. And you just pay back even money. But what people don't realize right now, all these big fund managers and stuff, all the 401ks and our stock markets are built upon borrowed Japanese money. They pull their money out, our whole system collapses. It's terrible right now. And that money is being asked to come back home in the form of Japanese dumping US treasuries. Now, this move here is going to affect billions of people. Japan's stock market, like I said, they lost $30 trillion just last week, in a week alone. And one of their leaders said that the measures being prepared by the Bank of Japan will affect the lives of billions of people. To the people of the Western countries, I offer my deepest apologies. This is not a personal matter. May God's blessings be upon you. This war, and me and Bishop has talked about this because I wondered, is this the trigger that creates the global depression and brings us to the digital currency, digital ID, and social credit score? Right now, where we talked on this show about the Federal Reserve, damned if you do, damned if you don't, on raising interest rates or lowering interest rates right now, Japan has to make a decision. Do they save their bond market or do they save their money, their currency? So if they save their bond market, their people are going to get poorer. Inflation is going to eat up savings and the money will keep collapsing. So they're going to constantly need influxes of money from us and Western nations to try to keep them afloat. If they decide to save the money, which they're going to need at least 7.6 trillion, the banks are going to start bleeding losses. They're operating at negative 200% GDP, and the banks are going to have to start eating interest rates on that negative 200% GDP. So no matter which way they go on this, they're going to suffer. And then the rest of the world is going to start suffering. They collapse, and seeing that their money is tied into all the Western nations, stock markets, 401ks, other investments, bond markets, treasuries, if they go under, they're dragging everybody else with them.
Real quick, I got to
Go
give
ahead.
us
Sorry.
couple shout outs here. Housekeeping over here. We got Evil Rick coming in with the 5 gifted memberships. Yo, that's humongous. Thank you for that. Not only helping us over here, but 5 others in the Insane Wheels family. Appreciate that. And also, we got a raid from Biker News Canada, by the way. Bob up there in Canada, we very much appreciate you and your support to us. Thank you for that.
And Bishop, let me show one other thing. Mike, give me picture 5, please.
Sure. Gotcha. Here we go.
Okay, you can see the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has got that shut down. The Bab al-Mandab Strait, the Houthis, which is proxies of Iran, has got that shut down. Now the alternative, give me that picture back. The alternative picture.
I know, but
Okay.
go ahead. I'm showing the strait. Go ahead.
Okay. Go up to the extreme left.
Yeah, I'll go up to the canal.
To the Suez Canal, yeah. Where the Suez Canal is, 2 boats were hit there recently by drones. So if the Suez Canal, which was the alternative route to ship oil to keep from going down toward the Houthis to get it into the Mediterranean and get it to the European countries, if that area is in range of the drones, it's definitely in range of the missiles. and that Suez Canal is controlled by Egypt.
Right.
So seeing that those ships were hit just before they entered the canal,
Yeah,
what
they
is
were hit like
Egypt?
over here.
Yeah, what is Egypt going to do? Are they going to take this? Because they make a lot of money off that Suez Canal.
Oh,
And
that they bank off of that. Like
yeah,
that's how Egypt makes real money.
if
Right
they
there.
if they sink a ship in the middle of that canal, that whole thing is jammed up. But it's definitely within range. If it's in range of the drones, it's in range of the missiles. So they've actually got two straits and one canal totally sold up right now. And again, they don't have to win battles. All they have to do is be able to threaten it to get everything shut down.
Yes, that's very true. All they
And
have to do is threaten it.
seeing that oil equals energy and the world runs on energy, how much longer can the world take this before we end up into World War III?
And
But
real
I'm
quick,
going to stop there.
you were talking about how the Mediterranean Sea, that's where the, Suez Canal goes out to, on the north part, right?
Right,
That's going into particular, that's where basically the world is doing their exchange with Europe, right? And
right.
throughout the rest of the world, that Suez Canal is vital for shipping. And I will bring up here in a minute. I'm going to have to grab it, but the actual live AIS again, just showing the amount of traffic that goes up into Europe. I mean, every single moment is insane.
And let me say this. Why do we care about this? Because one, it's going to add weeks of transit time to cargo and oil coming to us. It's going to drive up the cost of insurance, and then it's going to create higher freight costs, and it's going to drive up global oil prices, which is again is energy. So people need to understand what's going on over in the Middle East directly affects us.
Yes, it actually directly affects the entire globe, unfortunately.
Right, right.
And so here's the traffic. I just want to show you guys this. Now we do have a small naval blockade that's happening currently as we're talking right now on this strait at the Al Manab Strait, but only towards Saudi flagged ships right now. Anything going in and out of Saudi is the naval blockade that we're seeing right now. And right now, as you guys can see, normal traffic is going through. That's obviously not Saudi. And you can see a whole bunch of Saudi stuff that's just sitting there. To see how it's like they're waiting to move. They're blockaded right now. But nonetheless, the white part is the ocean, just so you guys know. But like you guys can see that this is the transit that goes all throughout the rest of Europe and the way that the world trades. It's huge. Anyways.
Right. So you know that if you had a blockage on those 2 points, and then you
Yes.
also hitting the Suez Canal, you basically shutting it down on 3 different points, which means
Yes.
ain't nothing getting in, ain't nothing getting out of there. You know what I mean? This is, I heard the other day where they were talking about there was going to be some type of negotiation going on, but Iran just said today that no, there isn't. They're not making any kind of negotiation. The only one they're making a negotiation with right now is Oman, and I guess they're finalizing their little thing.
I know they're stabbing us right in the back right now. It's
Right.
great.
Right. So they finalizing their little deal to where, they open up the strait, and Iran gets their piece, Oman gets their piece.
Yep. Let's just
And
split revenue here. Yeah.
exactly, and that's, I hate to say it, but it's that's exactly what it's going to come to.
Yes.
They're not
Sadly.
going to. It's not going to go back to what it used to be. You had it before where it was wide open, and you didn't have
Yeah,
to
at
worry
least
about
not in the near future. It's going to take a lot of work.
it's not going to. They're going to be taxing from here on out unless they decide to do something. Which I've been seeing reports where they're talking about these munition shortages that we having over here,
Sure.
which is still kind of strange to me, being the fact that they get billions and billions and billions of dollars every year to make sure. So they shouldn't be. I mean, like, how the fuck are you having shortages? But being the fact that you ain't passed no audit in the past 9 years, it kind of tells you right there that money ain't just going to defense, it's going in some people's pockets and everything else. So the damn show ain't going to defense because you wouldn't be short if it was. And then you steady adding to it. You know what I mean? But Aaron, I got one quick question for you, bro. When you was talking about that the U.S. was basically bailing out Japan, and I didn't hear whether you gave an actual amount that they gave them.
We gave them 53 billion on Friday, and the next influx of cash is going to have to be higher because
Wait,
their money's falling too fast.
who's this in between? What countries? Us and
Uh,
who?
Japan, we're bailing out their
Oh,
money.
in Japan. Yeah.
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 Yeah, we gave them 53 billion, and they matched us with 73.6 billion to support their money. The Federal Reserve is the buyer of last resort in the United States. If we can't sell our debt, the Federal Reserve will buy it. The Bank of Japan is the buyer of last resort in Japan. If they cannot sell that debt to nobody, then the Bank of Japan has to buy it. So they came up with 73.6 billion. We came up with 53 billion, and it wasn't enough. So the next influx of cash is going to have to be even higher.
So basically, the Federal Reserve bought it back.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I
So
said, Japan, they have to make a decision. Do they save their debt market or do they save their currency? And it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right. Man, I'll tell you what, I like to know, seriously, like, where's all this money coming from?
Right. They're
When you
printing
say
it.
that we don't have money for this and we can't buy this, we can't afford this and we can't do this, but you seem to always have money when you want it. You see what I'm saying? Like, if it's something that you want to do, then you make sure that money's there. But when it's, other stuff that's going around, like, let's say Medicaid, Medicare, and let's Social Security and health programs and school programs and stuff like that, I was like, oh, we don't got money for that. But you find money for what you want to find it for. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When paying to gold paint fucking statues and pools and making helicopter pads that you dig up and redo it and you coming up with 14 million here and 20 million here and 5 million here and 53 billion right here. Not to count the what was it, the 37 billion that Defense Department just asked for on top of the 97. On top of that, with a 1.5 at the end of the year, like, where the fuck is this money coming from? You know what I mean? Now you buying back your own debt because that's exactly what you just did. So that 53 billion was basically you just buying that back, and then you're going to find out a way to kind of
Because we owe them favors. That's why, though.
Right, but then you find a way to flip that to where you don't owe it no more. Like, you kind of just write it off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, Federal Reserve, they don't care. They'll run them printing presses because the American taxpayer is the one's going to take it on the chin. We're the ones running around with the bloody noses because every time they print money with nothing to back it, the inflation goes up on us. Everything costs more over here, and nobody seems to care.
Exactly.
True. True.
Now, on the inflation scale, we'll be sitting at 4% now.
It's up there, yeah.
Yeah. So we're sitting at 4%. When this administrator started, we was at 2.9%. Now we're sitting at 4%. And it's not getting any better. Everything's rising. So this is going to be a situation where, like, we already see what's coming. You know what I mean? There's no point in pulling any wool over nobody's eyes. You already see what it is. You know what I mean? Either you're going to be proactive about it and get ready for what's getting ready to come, or you're not. I mean, that's basically cut and dry as to what this is going to be, because no matter how many times we sit on here and say the same thing over and over and over again, we've been telling you for a long time that this is about to come. Okay. So now we're sitting here on the precipice of what's getting ready to happen because you know that there is not going to be an agreement with Iran. It's not. The Strait is going to open. People are going to pay. Everything's going to go up. Everything's going to go up automatically anyway because it hasn't went up yet from previous. We're doing the catch up right now. So when this catch up hits and everything shoots up, that's just the precursor to what's getting ready to come over top of that. But you remember back at the beginning of the year, remember I said, watch out for March, July, November, them 3 months. And you see what's going on as it's progressing. It's progressively going. You know what I mean? And I still strongly think that November is going to be it's going to be a whole shit show.
It is
for numerous things.
Yes.
Things. Yeah, but this is some stuff that we're going. Like I said, we continue to watch it. We continue to talk about it. You know what I mean? Now, my prayers is that it doesn't get as bad as I think it's going to get. But
right. But we can see logic, right? Logical what's going to be happening here.
Right, but I'm not going to be stupid and tell you guys like, oh no, it's going to be just fine. Everything is just fine. We just need to wait a little bit, and everybody just hold tight. And
it's all good.
Gonna be fine. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you because I'm not gonna lie to myself about that.
Right.
Where we sitting at 107s.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you want to go ahead and talk about your little thing right there?
Sure.
What do you want to do?
Okay. What I'm about to talk about today is water filtration systems that are available on the market. There's many out there. I want to explain a major difference in them. You know, before I talked about these on the show. These are like the Life Straws, but different brand because the Life Straw has 1,000-gallon capacity. These have 1,800-gallon capacity. Put it up to your mouth, suck through the bottom, or if you stuck a bottle of water down in dirty water, this will screw onto the bottom, which the Life Straw doesn't have that feature.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't got that. That's cool.
You can hold it up, squeeze in on the water bottle, and the water coming out will be purified. Now, this will take out Giardia. It takes out different pathogens that are in the water, keeps you from getting sick from drinking water that might have something floating in it. These are great to have. You can put a t-shirt, piece of stocking over the front if the water has a lot of particulates floating in it, and then suck the water up through, and that will pre-filter and keep the particulates out so it doesn't jam your filter up. That'll give you the full 1,800 gallons. But what this doesn't filter is viruses. So if someone then puts something in the water, or you see dead animals or something halfway floating in the water, this is not going to protect you from a virus that could be in the water. Now, this is a cheap system here. This would run about 120 gallons. It runs on a red line filter. Let me bring it up a little closer. As you can see, it's a hand pump design. It has a hose to it, and you just run the hose to your water source, and then you pump with your hands. And the red line filter will do 120 gallons before you have to switch it out. Now, what this will remove from the water is viruses, bacteria, crypto, and giardia. It reduces chlorine in water and chemicals. It improves the taste. So if there's a chemical aftertaste, or if the water looks real murky and things, then this will help improve the taste of it. To totally improve the taste, have you some Kool-Aid, country time lemonade or something on hand that you can put into the water, shake it up, and that'll make it more palatable.
Damn, that's a pretty smart move.
Yeah, if it's bad tasting.
Yeah, I gotta admit.
Some people use iodine tablets, and iodine has a nasty taste to it. But if you add a powdered drink mix to your canteen or whatever, shake it up. It makes it palatable to where you can drink it. But something like this would run you about $120. This is about anywhere from $18 to $25, depending upon source that you're getting it from. But the more of the smaller ones you buy, you get a bulk purchase price. Then I have something here. This is a big boy. It holds 2 or 3 gallons. This is called a Berkey water filter system. And the Berkey is gravity fed. You take the lid off, pour your water in. Inside, you have 2 charcoal filters. They go inside. The water goes through the filters and then drips down into the base. And it fills up. You get probably in a few hours, you get like 2 or 3 gallons of water. These are great to have. I mean, there could be mercury in the water, and this will filter out mercury. It will filter out chlorine. If there's cholera or something like that in the water, this will filter all that out. 2 filters on a Berkey, you will get 5,500 gallons of water purified. So if you buy one, set comes with the machine, and then you can also buy extra filters. Now, Life Straw has, and the extra set comes with 2 filters. But if, in the event that they can trigger the water companies to put more chemicals into the water and make the water poisonous, or they stop the water from coming to your house and you have to go to a local lake, stream, or pond to get water, having any one of these 3 systems or having some sort of system to purify the water would be great. And then as added backup, have some water purification tablets. The military says 2 is 1, 1 is none. Purify the water, and just to be sure, drop you a tablet or 2 into your water, wait the allotted time. That water should be doubly safe to drink. And with that, I'll stop. But just know the small units do not filter virus. Now, the Sawyer model does, but small ones don't. But they will get all the little creatures crawling around in there that will tear your guts up. This will take care of it. The bigger units will filter water, bioweapons. It'll filter out viruses, bacteria, different things of that nature. It goes so small, and the Berkey itself will even filter out microplastics. So if you're afraid you're getting microplastics into your liver and your kidneys, this big unit here will filter that out.
Real quick, Evil Rick says, I heard you can't get Berkey filters anymore. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not 100% sure on, but I bought my filters a few years back when they were still available. I wasn't aware that you couldn't get them. But Life Straw has a large system like this that would run you about $450, and it's designed for a church. It has multiple spouts around it where people can come up and get water or get punch, whatever you got in it. It's like I said, it's got like 4 or 5 spigots on it, and that would be the next best one that I would recommend.
What's that one machine that they got that came out to where it actually pulled the air and made and like took the water out of the air? Have you seen that?
That's a water generators. They do have them. They work on the same principle that a dehumidifier does. But what you run into with those is the water itself doesn't have minerals in it. So you would want to have some mineral supplements on
that
hand.
you can add or that you can take.
Yeah.
Right.
I forget, distilled water is like that. If you ever had distilled water before, it's real low on minerals.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
But you can only go 3 days without water. So Iran wanting to attack our power grid and go after our water, that's crucial. The population's not going to make it without water. There will be many people that will die because they will become so thirsty that they will drink contaminated water.
Yeah, right. And that is the sad reality. And I think that everything that we have ever done here on Diamond Effect, we've done our best to not give any type of fear mongering or any of that. It's just actual preparedness for kind of like any situation, but these are all realistic situations that we're looking at. I mean, we're all analysts to an extent to what we're watching over, throughout the world right now. And I think it comes down to preparedness. And I think it's, when this goes down, let's just say we lose our electricity for a certain amount of time or water or any of that. Unfortunately, you're right. There's going to be a humongous panic and it's just going to be out of control. And so I really can't thank both of you guys enough for your insights on what you do and your specialties, So thank you, Aaron and AB, for that. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here in 7 days. We can't thank you guys enough. Much love, honor, respect, everybody. We'll see you guys here very soon. Here in 7 days, another crazy story as always. Much love to everybody.